The following is organically human content. Humans, que sera, sera. As I see things developing in the news, I think that we need to become accustomed to seeing mass layoffs on a weekly basis. We're seeing tens of thousands of jobs in certain government departments and sectors. We will see many, many, many more of those. They will be followed and accompanied by layoffs in the private sector as the dawning reality that we can cut headcount without losing productivity, that you can, because of the inefficiencies of humans and the great efficiency and computational power of artificial intelligence, that you just can't compete. So it is a lever that is going to be required for survival, and that's going to require that people get laid off in mass numbers. This is not a political thing, and I think that one of the things I'd like to recommend for all of us is just to kind of keep the political rhetoric out of this. When I saw, after the inauguration, I saw the president sitting down with Musk and Bezos and who else was there? There were these, Zuckerberg, these titans of technology, most of whom, including the president, were former or probably still in some way Democrats themselves in their past. I said, this is not the same thing that we're not in the same world anymore. The lion is laying down with the lamb, and it turns out that they're all lions. They aren't looking at this through a political lens. They are looking at this through a raw survival lens. For their industries, for their companies, no doubt there's a selfish thing, but there's also a survival of the nation that I sense. I am personally comfortable with reservations with the role that Elon Musk is playing in the government as a very active consultant. I'll remind you that he has been vetted, that there are security clearances that he too had to pass. So there is some reassurance there, but I cannot think of a single other human on the planet that I would want on my team if I were looking into the future and wanting to optimize my organization, my government as an organization for the future and how it will be mediated by technology. I cannot think of a single other human being I would want on my team. I think that he is behind a lot. Obviously, he is. He's taking a very obvious and public role with Doge. And I think that many of these cuts and many of the changes that we are going to be seeing are at his behest. He has successfully taken he successfully took a chainsaw to Twitter, cut the head count by 80%. Okay. And I think they're still functioning and growing and probably in profitability, although you can't look at the P&Ls of companies like that like you do, just regular run-of-the-mill companies. It's, he has such a complex web of assets. So I think that he sees the future. So Musk sees the future in ways that few other humans do because they just don't have exposure. They don't have entree into the greatest minds in the world of technology. He has, he rubs shoulders and sits shoulder to shoulder with some of the greatest minds in the world, the smartest people. So he's on the bleeding edge of what is going to be. He is building that future and has shown the ability to execute successfully and very, very efficiently. So those are some pretty compelling traits from where I sit, all politics aside. And I think that one of the things that he sees that is not in the broader public dialogue is not only the impact that AI is going to have, robotics is going to have on the future. He's on the front line of building these things. He knows what the next few years are going to look like. Factor in Neuralink, factor in space. The other thing that he sees that no one is talking about is quantum computing. Quantum computing, if we think that AI is going to disrupt civilization, quantum computing just is going to make that exponentially more disruptive. To give you a sense of the scale of change that quantum computing represents, Microsoft recently announced some progress with their quantum initiative, and their CEO said that would require a traditional computer, a 2025 computer. It would take 10,000 years for that current technology to deliver the results that this quantum computer delivers. When you are able to throw that kind of computational power at the world, and you combine it with AI, we're in a world that we can't comprehend of superintelligence. The definitions, we just kind of toss the definitions out the window. And so I think that he sees this future, and he knows that change has to happen now in order for this nation to continue to survive. I think he sees the cuts that are being made as necessary, almost through a Malthusian kind of philosophy. They're necessary for the survival of the nation. And to not make them now would be criminal. I think that's the kind of mentality that they have. There is a certain kind of bunker mentality. There are going to be very, very difficult changes that are going to need to be implemented across this country in order to help us prepare for and adapt to this new technology future. Do not be alarmed, but when you know a threat is coming, when you know disruption is coming, you have got to think about it. You've got to engage with that future. You've got to provision yourself, and you have to train yourself to think about solutions. So I'm just floating some observations. Do with them what you will. The other day, a commenter said, "Who the hell is Rick Julian?" I agree. Who the hell am I? I'm nobody. But I observe and have for a couple of decades observed populations at scale. It's been part of my business. I observe trends at scale. That's part of my business. Shifts and changes in culture. Pretty good at seeing that. I've seen this thing before. I have smelled this kind of rainstorm before. This is bigger than anything I've ever imagined. My brain can't contain it. And most of the smartest people in the world who talk have some conversant ability to discuss this. They really can't get their minds wrapped around it either. All right, the conversation will continue. That's enough for today. Peace.